Hey everyone, Freddie Michaels from TheHardRCritic, where we do not so deep dives into movies. Today we have the beloved horror classic not named Chucky, Child's Play, directed by Tom Holland. But before we get into the overall synopsis, review, and rating, please like, share, and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let's get into it. Child's Play is the godfather of all killer doll genre, loosely based on the Buddy doll toy, which oddly enough plummeted after this movie. This doll horror is extremely on the nose with how popular the Good Guy company is, with Andy and Good Guy cosplay while eating Good Guy cereal, Good Guy on TV, even the kids in the school have Good Guy dolls. It's basically this movie's Turbo Man, and much like Turbo Man, we're force-fed this doll's entire catalog. We're also force-fed a completely shitty plot for a film, but I digress. And I'm sure someone watching this video right now is seething because as a child they were so afraid of this film, and it probably has some type of nostalgic connection to them. But trust me, Child's Play is the worst aging horror movie ever made. It's not scary, it's not well thought out, it leans on Charlie Lee Ray, played by Brad Dourif, way too much. Honestly, this movie wouldn't even be watchable if it was just about the auxiliary characters. And yes, supporting roles matter. The only character that's somewhat interesting is John Bishop, and it's the 80s and he's a black man in a horror movie. I, much like most tormented youths in the 90s, have a bizarre love for serial killer anything, so the idea of the Lakeshore Strangler was outstanding to me. The problem is we only got that for about 2 minutes in this movie, and after rewatching the film I think of multiple ways that could have made this movie better, perhaps giving us some room to run with Charlie and Mike playing cat and mouse while hinting at voodoo elements to come before he turns into a doll, and speeding up the actual movie we got would have been better in my opinion. But I digress. We'll begin our synopsis here, where we get the Chicago serial killer being shot at by a cop in the middle of a crime at night. He's quickly abandoned by his confidant in crime, where we're introduced to Charlie Lee Ray, the Lakeshore Strangler, who's fatally shot, and while clinging on to the foxhole of life and death, does exactly what all of us would have done in this moment. Reflect on time spent alive and make peace for all things unaccomplished. For what it's worth, pray to our mother, say goodbye to his friends, and relinquish regret because at the end of it all, the meaning of life is to live until you can't, and find solace in your final moments, right? Wrong. This twisted song bitch does voodoo sorcery on the most popular doll in the shelves because he's not only a vulgar, sexist, homophobic serial killer, he's also the Padawan to a great Voodooisant. That's right, deal with it. No consent, no explanation, this is the 1980s, bitch. This man has sorcery in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It's also going to twist your nipples when you realize the spell of Damballa, which is the primordial god of creation, is mainly used to transfer sickness from one vessel to the next, but Charlie, the voodoo prodigy, transmutated the dark spells for souls, which in theory, by using the Heart of the Dark amulet, could transfer his soul into anyone and could have simply got that off of his dead body and avoided this movie entirely. But the plot of the film is about transferring his soul into Andy in a race against time, but instead, Charlie drags ass doing side quests and watching the news. With the power of voodoo, why is this man even a criminal in the first place? But I digress. The Lakeshore Strangler is put in a doll that generic-ass family number one eventually acquires, and the good guy is all Andy ever wanted, so they live happily ever after. Until the doll kills his babysitter, which results in Andy being a suspect for murder. We're introduced to Detective Mike, who's just the worst. He assumes Andy is the killer because he saw doll footprints and flour on the counter. Seriously, this character is just the worst, but not nearly as bad as Andy, who just skipped school in the late 80s in the inner city of Chicago, which was one of the safest cities in America, and it always has been. So, instead of Chucky taking this malcontent's body, he instead somehow home alones his partner into blowing himself up. So Andy literally tells the police that the doll is a serial killer, but these are 80s cops in cinema. They don't believe shit. And at this point, Andy's mother, being the nurturer that she is, sends her son into an insane asylum and takes the doll home instead. Where she then eventually tells Detective Mike the exact same thing, and he doesn't believe her either. So instead of doing any detective work, he goes to beat up some homeless men before giving her a lesson on mental fortitude. The two separate, and Chucky remembers this schmuck is responsible for him being a doll, which results in the detective wrecking a squad car. We learn about Chucky's Jedi Master Dr. Exposition before he's, killed by Chucky, who then goes on a tear killing anyone to get to Andy, which forces the young child to once again traverse Chicago in the 80s, in the winter, all alone. I hate this film. If you go outside right now in Chicago, you'll find like 13 Lakeshore Stranglers. So anyway, Chucky goes to the apartment and just beats everyone's ass before Andy lights him on fire, making sure the heart's destroyed as instructed. Nope. So the good mother sends the child back into the living room in the only sensible moment in the movie. I mean, the kid has walked all of Chicago in the 80s by himself twice in this film. Surely, if Chucky is alive, he'll be fine. So we get the best shot in the film as the burned doll walks just fast enough to make the third act drag before Andy's great mom fires a revolver in the same room her child's in. Then Detective Just As Dumb shows up to play with the good guy doll, only for Chucky to put his goofy ass in a chicken wing and finally be gunned down. So, everyone survives in the end, and Chucky is finally dead. For good. So, what are the pros? Well, for starters, the doll's facial expressions becoming more humanized as the film goes on, showing the necessity for a new vessel is dope. And the fact that the doll is called the good guy always tickled me. The movie is enjoyable and does have replay value. The child actor for Andy can actually act, but is eclipsed by Brad Dourif's voice. He's really the best thing about the film and has the best display of acting throughout it. The runtime is short, so you don't have to suffer too long. Charlie Lee Ray's apartment is probably the best thing about the movie and franchise itself. It should have been explored more, and you can see the doll kink he already had, probably symbolic to how he views the emotionless taking of life, to the painting of him bowing down to his teacher and showing the immortal blood sacrifice to Damballa. The whole voodoo aspect of the film is outstanding and probably, in retrospect, the scariest thing about the movie. Pretty good last act that shows just how powerful the dark sorcery from Charlie is. I mean, seriously, this fucking doll becomes a Terminator. So, what are the cons? Well, unfortunately, the movie ChildPlay involves an actual child predator that was on set as Chucky by the name Ed Gale, which in theory is just sick and horrifying. If you're not a child, this film really isn't scary at all. The practical effects aren't the best. The movie's acting is pretty bad outside of Brad Dourif and Andy. Charlie completely abandons his entire motive, which was settling the score with Mike. The movie is utter nonsense. How can a man be such a powerful and dark voodooisant but is dying from a gunshot wound? Especially if you factor in that amulet mess. Honestly, this franchise is just terrible. How did Mike survive the explosion in the beginning? How did Eddie's gun even make that level of an explosion? Why didn't John Bishop call the police? Why didn't Charlie allow himself to be used as evidence to give Mike his just desserts? Why did he just lay low so long instead of killing everyone early on? And why did he even let himself get sold in the first place? The movie actually executes as if we the viewers don't know that Charlie is a doll, which is obnoxious. After Chucky kills his accomplice Eddie, why didn't he just go free? Mike and Jack aren't good characters or cops or even good people for that matter. They send Karen straight to the cuckoo's nest in the next film. Which reminds me, this band of characters, Chucky aside, all kinda suck. And the decision making in this supposed horror movie is just terrible. Not throwing Chucky into the fire, gift wrapping Chucky the bat for him to use later, it's just one stupid mistake after another. In my opinion, a better way to execute the film would have been if no one saw Chucky move until the end of the movie, which would have resulted in everyone thinking it was Andy the entire time. Not only does this allow suspense to build, it would have made for a much more believable plot, and the reveal of the third act would have landed better. I'm gonna be honest, Child's Play is for some people, but it's just not for me. The entire Chucky series, in my opinion, outside of CP2, is the second worst franchise in all of horror. And while I find the actual character Charlie Lee Ray super fascinating, I'd much rather watch a prequel film about his killings as a Lakeshore Strangler who abuses his voodoo abilities, maybe even transferring the souls into toys and torturing them. Show the strain of his relationship with John Bishop only to barely get away with the crime before the nostalgic, edgy ending where he places his soul into a good guy doll. Hollywood, this shit ain't free. But unfortunately, we get this mess of a film for a mess of a franchise. This film deems itself as a horror movie, but the jump scares and fear factor are Child's Play. See what I did there? Okay, sorry, I'll make it up to you. The plot of this film feels like a child wrote it. It's filled with plot holes that make no sense, and the actual thread of the film is so scatterbrained that the execution ends up deeply flawed. While iconic and inspiring to the genre and culture of horror movies, Chucky, the movie formerly known as Child's Play, is a 4 out of 10. If you
go ahead and shoot. I'll be back. I always come back. Yeah, but dying is such a bitch.
If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment of what you thought about the video or any movie that you'd like to see me review next. As always, be well, and I'll see you soon.